Hello and welcome to yet another code explanation video, this time for the second assignment for my open source development course, in which I was tasked with writing a program that is responsible for quizzing you on your math skills and also to mess around with quadratic equations and calculating their discriminants. Without further ado, let's begin the code read. So the first thing that we see is an import of both random and math, which will be used later. Then we have our try except statement, in which we try to open the score.txt file, and if successfully, it'll just say welcome to the Veralto Kohi Math 101. Otherwise, it'll say that no score file is present. We'll create one when you finish the quiz. Once that's all said and done, we define the max score and the current score, which will be used later. Our first function here is the input number function, with the one parameter being the message, being what the question is that's requiring you to enter a number. It does so by first defining the outcome equaling input message plus colon space. Then it checks if the outcome is a digit, it'll return it as an int. Otherwise, it will return it as a float, since the division questions will produce float values. The next function we have is the math quiz, the first part of our program. In it, we do a global declaration of max score and current score so that we can modify the contents of both variables within the function. Then we have our while true loop, where we first define an A and B variable with a random rand range of 1 to 10. Then we have a rand operator, which is equal to rand.rand range 1 to 4, which is used to choose which of the 4 possible questions the user can be given. Then we have our answers table, which basically includes all 4 possible question types for the answers. Then we print out the math expression, and then we ask the user to input a number, to which the system will then check if the user input is equal to the answer based on the rand operator. So if so, then it'll print, you got it right, and it will increment the max score and current score by 2. Otherwise, it'll say, whoops, that's not the right answer, and only increment the max score by 2. Following that, we will print out the current score, which will then show the current score out of the total score. Then we will ask the user if they want to continue. If they choose to do so, then it'll loop back to the beginning of the while loop. Otherwise, it'll break out of the while loop. Before that, it'll say the max score, and it'll say wow. After all of that's said and done, we have a with open statement to open the score file in the append mode so that we can save the score that the user got on their math quiz. Then we have the calculate discriminant function. This is responsible for calculating the discriminant of the quadratic equation for the quad math function. So in here we have our outcome, which is equal to a empty string for initialization purposes. Then we have the discriminant variable is equal to b squared plus 4 times a times c. Then we have our if statements to check whether or not the discriminant is greater than 0, equal to 0, or less than 0. If it's greater than 0, then 2 calculations, very similar in nature, but the only difference being that one has a plus operator after the minus b, and the other has a minus after the minus b. Then the outcome will equal a message just outlining the values of x1 and x2, and then it'll print the message out. For the discriminant is equal to 0, only one of those calculations will be used, since only one x-coordinate will be found. And similarly, the outcome is stored, the message, and then we print the outcome. And then lastly, if the discriminant is less than 0, then it will print that both discriminants were negative, and we got a pair of complex solutions, and then it will print out the outcome. And then lastly, it will return said outcome. Now, in the quad math equation function, we have initializations for a, b, and c, both all equaling 0. Then we have our little welcome text, and then we'll show the current equation, and then we'll ask the user to enter the values for a, b, c, to which we then form a message, which concatenates all of that, then we have a message 1 variable, which basically prints out the quadratic equation, but with the numbers that the user had entered in. Then we print that message out, and then we have a secondary message that's equal to the discriminant, and we provide the A, B, and C values that the user entered in to do the calculation, and it will automatically print the outcome within the function. Then lastly, we then open the quad file in append mode, and yet again write both messages 1 and 2, separated by a \n for a new line, into the file, and that's the end of the quad math equation. And lastly, we have the math quiz function and the quad math equation functions being called, one after the other, so that when the program runs, the math quiz gets run first, and then proceeds to the quad math equation function. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a half-baked explanation of the code for assignment 2. And now we will proceed to the code demonstration.